The 15 Most Enigmatic People in History, Part 2.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
9. The Monster with 21 Faces. In May of 1984, the Japanese food corporation named Izaki Glyco ran into a bit of a problem. Their president, Katsuhisa Izaki, had been kidnapped from his home, held in an abandoned warehouse for ransom, only to have the president escape his captors soon after. Then, a letter was sent to the company stating that it had coated their products with potassium cyanide and would distribute them to the public. This threat forced Glyco to remove all of their items from multiple stores, resulting in the loss of $21 million as well as letting go of 450 workers. Brandishing the name Monster with 21 Faces, the entity sent out letters mocking the police, going so far as to give them clues to their identity and methods, and later stating in another message that they had forgiven Glyco and the harassment ceased. Not content with toying with one corporation, the monster laid its eyes upon their next prey, Morinaga and various other food companies. They did the same routine as before, threatened to poison the company's products, only this time demanding money to prevent them from doing so. During a failed sting operation at the time of the money exchange, a police officer almost captured the criminal responsible, later describing the person as having the eyes of a fox. Superintendent Yamamoto, who was in charge of the case and was racked with guilt and disgrace for not being able to find the monster, committed suicide by setting himself on fire. Not long after, the monster sent their last message to the media, mocking the officer's death before finally signing off with the line, "We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do other than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life." Monster with 21 Faces. They were never. 10. D.B. Cooper. It was inevitable that the man under the pseudonym D.B. Cooper would arise in this category, and even less surprising that it's the only unsolved piracy crime in aviation history. The crime occurred in November 1971 at the Portland International Airport, where a man, using the name Dan Cooper, boarded a plane to Seattle, a black briefcase tagging along with him. After takeoff, Cooper gave a flight attendant a note, saying that he had a bomb in his briefcase, and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. After complying, the attendant informed the pilot, who then contacted authorities of the situation. After landing at the Seattle airport, all of the passengers were released, the demands were met, and the exchange completed, and the plane took off once again. When flying over Reno, Nevada and remaining in a very calm and collective state, Cooper told the staff on board to stay in the cockpit, where he then opened a passenger door and leapt into the night sky. Although there were many suspects and eyewitness accounts, Cooper was never found again, with the exception of a portion of the ransom money found in a river in Vancouver, Washington. 11. The Babushka Lady. The 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy was a horrendous moment in American history. Of course, it was also infamous for giving birth to a seemingly never-ending avalanche of conspiracy theories and claims from an innumerable amount of people. Out of all of the strange and macabre details surrounding this event, one arguably stands out as the most mystifying: the Babushka Lady. This woman was captured on numerous cameras and photographs before, during, and after the shooting, seen wearing sunglasses, an overcoat, a babushka, or a Russian scarf, and actually filming the entire incident with her own camera. When the FBI called for the woman to come forward with evidence, after failing many times to find and identify her, not a single person came forward, nor did the film that she possessed. Think about it, this woman was in broad daylight, in full view of the assassination, recording it as it happened from a completely different perspective. had appeared in almost every film and photo taken during the event by at least 32 witnesses, and yet not one person has identified her, not even the FBI. Not to this day. 12. The Man from Tort. In Tokyo, Japan, 1954, at Haneda Airport, thousands of travelers and passengers from around the world shuffle in and out of the terminals going about their everyday lives. One passenger, however, seemed to stick out. For some reason, this normal-looking man in a business suit attracted the attention of airport security, who detained him for questioning. The man spoke French, but spoke several other languages fluently. He had a passport that had stamps from across the globe, including Tokyo. But the oddest trait of this man was that he claimed to be from a country called Tord, which was nestled between France and Spain. The only problem was that Tord wasn't located on any map that they had produced to him, instead having the country of Andorra in its place. This made the man very upset, saying that the country had existed for centuries, and that he even had stamps on his passport from that location. Confused and concerned, officials had him stay in a hotel room with 2 armed guards outside the door, while they dug up more information on the man. Suffice it to say, they came up completely empty. When they returned to the man's hotel room, he had disappeared without a trace. The door had not been opened, no movement was noticed in the room, and the high floor that he stayed on made it impossible for an escape attempt via the window. To make matters even more eerie, all of his belongings vanished from the airport security room where they were kept. The man, simply put, dove into the abyss and never came back. 13. The Somerton Man. On December 1, 1948, police found the body of a man on Somerton Beach in the town of Glenelg, Australia. After taking him to the coroner, it was discovered that all the labels and tags on his clothes were removed, had no wallet or identification, and his body was clean-shaven. Even his dental records matched any person alive at the time. They literally could not find anything to properly identify this man. After conducting an autopsy, the pathologist concluded that he was certain that the death could not have been natural, and suggested that the man was poisoned, despite the fact that there wasn't any trace of a deadly substance in the body. Aside from his hypothesis, the doctor could not conclusively identify the deceased, the cause of death, nothing. Perhaps the most mysterious part of this case was that the dead man had a page torn from the rubaiyat, with the words Tamam Shud written on it. In Persian, Tamam Shud translates to ended or finished. The man, to this day, still hasn't been identified. 14. The Green Children of Woolpit. Imagine, if you will, that you live in Suffolk, England, in a small village called Woolpit in the 12th century. While harvesting crops, you come across a pair of children huddled in an empty wolf den, their skin tinged green, their language incomprehensible, wearing indescribable clothing. You take them into your home, where they refuse to eat anything but raw beans, according to several witnesses. After eventually learning to speak English, eat different foods, and having their green color fade away, one of the children, a boy, became sick and died shortly after. The surviving child, a girl, explained that they came from St. Martin's Land, a world of twilight, where they were watching over their father's cattle, heard a shrill noise, and found themselves in the den that they were found in. Later in her life, she married a man from King's Lynn, never being heard of her from again. 15. Caspar Hauser. It is the 26th of May in Nuremberg, Germany, the year 1828. A young teenage boy aimlessly wanders the streets, clutching a letter in his hand, with the words from the Bavarian border "This place is unnamed 1828" as the heading, addressed to a Captain von Wessenet. The letter states that the boy was taken in as an infant in 1812, was taught to read and write, but was never allowed to take a single step outside. It also stated that the boy become a cavalryman, just like his father was, and instructed the captain to either take him in or hang him. When interviewed, the boy, naming himself Casper Hauser, said that he spent his life in a darkened cell that measured 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 4.5 feet high, with only a straw bed and 3 toys carved out of wood to play with. After telling his story, he spent the next few years jumping from household to household, where, on December 14, 1833, Casper was found with a stab wound in his chest. He had a small violet purse on him, containing a letter that said, "Hauser will be able to tell you quite precisely how I look, and from where I am. To save Hauser the effort, I want to tell you myself from where I come. I come from the Bavarian border on the river. I will even tell you the name, MLO. Casper Hauser died of his wounds 3 days later, leaving behind little Elf.